Now, two leaders representing more than 2.5 billion people. That's what you get when India and China bring their heads of government together. Well, India's Prime Minister arrived in China for a 3-day visit to boost economic cooperation between the two Asian superpowers. He's been holding talks with the Chinese president, who said he wants the countries to strengthen coordination on global and regional affairs and to trust each other more. Well, let's head to Mumbai, because he also said he'll encourage Chinese companies to invest in India. For this and more, let's speak to Nazia Vasi, Chief Executive of Inchin Closer. It's a consultancy working with businesses and education institutes to bridge the gap between the two countries. Welcome to the programme. This is fascinating because it's the second time these two leaders have met over recent months. How much potential is there for a real increase in trade between India and China?
Hi, there is a lot of potential for trade between India and China. The two countries have a lot in common, and it would be wonderful to see trade being boosted between the two countries.
Tell me a little more about your sort of bread and butter daily work in terms of the difficulties that some Indian companies will have when they're trying to break into that Chinese market. Just take me through some of the obvious hurdles they've got to overcome.
So some of the major problems that Indian companies face in China is language and food. Language is a big barrier to China, predominantly because if many Indian businessmen don't understand the language, they don't trust business between Chinese companies. So understanding the language, understanding numbers becomes predominant for Indian companies and Indian businessmen to do business in China.
I notice you've also made the point, as you try to grapple with these cultural issues, even things like timekeeping become significant and important. Tell me more.
It's very important. One of the major things that we tell Chinese companies and Chinese executives when they come to India is to work for a lag in time, because it so happens that Indian bureaucracy and Indians have a lax way of time, which the Chinese often need to get used to. So we work this into our business etiquette programs when we talk about bridging ties between India and China.
So that's really interesting. I mean, there's commonality because language for both sides of people moving between the two countries is a problem. But for Indians, it's the food, and for the Chinese, it's bureaucracy. Just in terms of your personal experience, when you lived and worked in China, I mean, how different was it in terms of just the mindset, the way you have to conduct business?
It's actually quite different for Indians to conduct business in China and for Chinese to conduct business in India. They need to realize that. But there are also many fundamental similarities between the two countries. For example, there is a sense of building relationships between the two countries that we understand. In India and China, we both sign, we don't so much sign a contract, but we understand relationships. And those are more important to build for us when we're doing business between two people or two companies. This is different from the West, where in the West you would sign a contract and it would be a legal contract that you would hold in a court of law. But in China, in India, it's different because once we've built a relationship between two people, the legal contract is just a formality.
That's really interesting you say that, and in a sense it echoes what the Chinese president said, which was that we have to trust each other more. So just a final thought, because I mean, in a sense, I mean, we talked about the potential for these two countries to do more together. What is the limit of that, given that in a sense both these countries want to be the regional powerhouse?
I'm sure there is potential for the two countries to develop stronger bilateral ties. The idea behind Inchin Closer as a result is to create a platform for Indians and Chinese to understand each other better. The belief is that if we understand each other better, then the trust deficit between the two countries will be reduced. This is paramount in India-China relations. This definitely needs to happen.
Well, Nazia Vasi, thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you so much for being on today's programme.